Okay, it is time now for us to bring up Bob Scott again. Bob Scott, as has been introduced earlier, but Bob Scott is the Rotary International Foundation Head of Fundraising, and he has done a lot of it. Thank you, Bob. Come on up.
The only reason I came out here, because I was asked to, was in order to eat some Western beef. That was Western beef with two legs, I think. Seriously, last night, though, I had some beautiful beef at Home Hospitality with Doug and Terry Gossu, who have been our aides and have just been tremendous. And so thank you for... I asked Terry where she got the beef. I hoped she'd gone out to some farm and bought it somewhere. But no, it was Costco. What can you do? I hope you invite me back and I'll have some good beef. No, seriously. In the fall of 1986, that's a while ago, at a Rotary Institute in Toronto, Anne and I were very new and very wet behind the ears at a Rotary Institute. We didn't really know what we got into. As I said earlier today, we had had 1 hour of training. But we were relaxing. They had thrown us in at the deep end, and I was the registrar for this event that I didn't really know what it was all about. And it was the evening dinner dance. At that time, a dinner dance was always held, and with black tie, very, very formal. Typical Rotary without women, but we had women for dancing, let me tell you. And signaling to me, what do you want me to... Oh, she's saying I was in my kilt, you're right. Suddenly, on the dance floor, we banged into a couple who seemed much older than we are. Not once, but twice. And they gave us a bit of a frosty look, especially the second time. But in a sort of manner, said, come over and sit at our table after this particular dance was over. Well, we were a little worried about this, and Anne said to me, who are they? Well, I said, they're senior Rotarians, whatever that is. And his wife, and his name is Harold Henderson. And his wife, I think, is Maybelle, but I think she's known as May, so forget about the bell. And for God's sake, be polite. And apologize for leading me in such a bad way while we're dancing. And she asked what more. I said, well, he's been vice president of Rotary, and he's been a past aide to president, and well, he's also a dentist, I understand. He's been a teacher and all these sort of things. And she said, what on earth is the vice president of Rotary International? I said, you'll find out in about 30 years. Anyway, as all of you know, they turned out to be the nicest couple. And we sat down, and that was the beginning of a very happy relationship. Because as a senior Rotarian of the day, he gave me a lot of advice, and he was a mentor to me on many occasions, and I was able to call him at almost any time and ask him questions about what I should not do. But you know, we all grow older and the wheel turns. And it became the other way around. And Harold would phone me and ask me, how are we getting on with polio? We got rid of that darn virus yet? And other matters related to what was happening with Rotary and the vice president of the day at that time. And so I felt, as I had known him so well and he'd been so good, that when I became the vice president and director at the Zone Institute I organized in Ottawa, I would ask Harold to come to one of the events and sit at the top table again like his old days he used to, and say something. Well, you know, an old vice president can't resist a microphone. And he came, and he was gracious, and he was wonderful. So our memories of Harold Henderson from this district are really very, very happy. And we're so happy that we knew him. Turning to another example of true leadership toward me and to be truly a great person and a friend. In the early 90s, I was invited to be a keynote speaker at a Saturday night dinner somewhat like this at a district conference. I accepted, but discovered when I got there that the president's rep was none other than Ed Cadman. Now, Ed by this time had been president of Rotary International. And the protocol is very clear, and it was very clear certainly in these days, that if you had a past president of Rotary International at your district conference, he was the dinner speaker on the Saturday night. Not Bob Scott, some upstart from Cobourg, Ontario, Canada. I spoke to the governor, explained the situation, and he refused to change it. Ed told me, I of course went over and spoke with Ed, and as you all know, Ed was a little bit frosty at times. And Ed, I knew about that because Ed was a surgeon, orthopedic surgeon, and I gave a lot of anesthetics over the years for surgeons, and they are frosty people anyway. Ed was gracious, extremely gracious. I said to Ed, when are they going to have you speak? And he said, Sunday morning. My friends in Rotary, that is the graveyard spot for those of us who attend district conferences. You don't want to be asked to speak on Sunday morning. I don't know who's speaking here on Sunday morning, but God bless you. Suffice it to say that Ed did draw the crowd. After all, he was a past president. He gave a brilliant speech, as he could do when he got in the mood. And I heard him give several excellent speeches. And actually, I'm going to echo what Dean said a moment ago, because he said, I have traveled the world. I have seen ditches and wells. I've seen vaccinations. I've seen education programs that are marvelous. But what did I see? I saw Rotarians. I saw Rotarians working to make life better for their fellow humans. Ed was a great president. I'm so happy to have known him personally and to have been able to get past his frostiness. Because behind that, there was a great man. And so you're lucky in this district to have had two of the leading people in Rotary. I say this because they were both on one of the boards together that started, Jack Davis's board from Bermuda, that started where we are today. They began to talk about Rotary as an international organization rather than just a local organization that called itself Rotary International, because it happened to be in a number of countries. And that has led, as it has to, it led immediately to the 3H program, etc., that you've heard about today. And eventually, of course, to my favorite program, polio. These are just two short examples of two men that I knew well, that you had in your district, and in a moment or two, you're going to honor them with the certificates in their name. Thank you so much.